Hey, everybody, this is Jimmy Tingle. Welcome to another episode of the Meet the Candidate series for candidates for Cambridge City Council and School Committee. Today, my first guest is Joe McGuirk. Joe, welcome to the show, and please tell people a little bit about yourself. How long have you lived in Cambridge? And just to start things off.
Right on. Thanks for letting me talk to everybody here. So my name's Joe McGuirk. I was born in Cambridge, grew up in the suburbs close by, but started working in Cambridge as a teenager and moved back here in my mid-20s. So I've been here for 33 years. Mm-hmm. But my family's been here for 3 generations. And I tend bar in the area. I've been tending bar for the last 30 years or so, too, restaurant business since high school.
Great. Brandon, are you going to run the counter? It's not moving. Okay, I'm going to just start again, Joe. Sorry.
Yep.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody, this is Jimmy Tingle. Welcome to another episode of Meet the Candidates running for Cambridge City Council and Cambridge School Committee in 2023. My first guest today is Joe McGuirk. He is running for Cambridge City Council. He ran a couple of years ago. I got to meet him on Zoom, and I met him in person as well. So I want to welcome Joe to the show. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here, Jim.
Yeah, so just tell everybody about yourself. How long have you lived in Cambridge?
So I was born in Cambridge, grew up in the suburbs, but started working in Cambridge as a teenager and moved back to the city in my mid-20s. So I guess that puts me here for over 30 years, 32 years, 33 years. And I've tended bar in the region for that, those 32 years and was in the restaurant business prior to that as well.
The restaurant business in Cambridge. So you get to meet a lot of people in that capacity.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Tending bar in Cambridge is really great. One of the things that you find out very quickly is you are never the smartest person in the world. But,
that's for sure. I was just reading some of the resumes of the people who are running, and everybody's pretty accomplished, including yourself. So it's great to have you back on the show, and it's great to have you back in the race. And why are you running, Joe?
Well, it's funny you say that. There are a lot of accomplished people running, and sometimes I think that what I've done might not translate to being a city council member. It's intimidating. But the truth is, I've been a renter my whole life. I've been a lower income person all my life. And those things seemed like barriers to being a council member. But when I look around our city, I see a lot of lower and middle income folks who are necessary, essential to our city, but I rarely see their voices spoken on the council. We have a very diverse council, but it often lacks wage workers, lower income folks. So that was the primary reason to try to get there, to amplify the voices of our lower and middle income residents.
Right. Well, please don't ever underestimate the contributions that working class and middle class people make to the society. I mean, I don't know if you remember Al Vellucci, but I don't think he had a high school education. Yep. And he was mayor for, he was active in city politics for 30, maybe 40 years, and did a lot of positive things for the city and represented an area of the city that wasn't, also was very working class and very middle class. Yep. So those are great attributes. So tell me, what do you think the city is doing well right now, and where do you think we need help?
So I think that we do a lot of great things in Cambridge. One of the reasons that I'm running is because I love the city and I want to be able to stay here. The city offers a lot of public services. The last council did something I thought was really good. In a nation that's pretty divided, I hate to see the tribalism and kind of sectarianism come to our city. And they instituted a block party. They fund block parties now to try to get neighbors to talk to each other. I love seeing you on the screen, Jimmy, but it's much more fun to be with you in person. And I think that those personal connections, that's something I really admired about the last council, that they are funding block parties, really encouraging people to get there, know their neighbors and build community. And I hope to build community as a council member.
Right.
As far as things that we're not doing right, on the other side of that coin is our bike lane infrastructure is causing, I don't know if people are aware of it, but there's some changes to our street infrastructure to try to create more safer streets for our cyclists and pedestrians. And that's an admirable goal. But the way we're going about it is really causing a lot of divisions in our city. And I think good design with really having input from all our stakeholders might ease this. And so that's one of the things I think the city could be doing a better job of. but I can go
Yeah.
on to.
Do you think that the city did an adequate job or a sufficient job in terms of getting community input for the bike lanes, or did people just?
I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a tough question because I don't think there was any ill intent,
yeah.
but the Cambridge Cycling Safety Ordinance was amended in October of 2020. In October of 2020, 1 in 5 restaurants in Massachusetts had closed their doors forever. People were dealing with, we were in the height of COVID. And that CSO's amendment passage did have a couple opportunities for folks to give input, but people were really concentrating on other things. I think that we could have done a much better job of getting community input, and we should be doing a better job as we're making changes along our streets, our corridors, these major corridors. It feels like it's moving quickly without enough input.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think they could have done a better job.
Well, tell me, what are your top 3 to 5 priorities? What would you like to see if you were elected? What would you like to work on at the city council?
Yeah, there's a lot of people think that I'm a housing first candidate because I've been endorsed by a couple of housing advocate groups. But what I always tell folks is I'm really about empowering our lower and middle income residents. Lower and middle income residents are essential to our city's well-being. Like empowering those folks is not an act of altruism. It actually is better for everybody who lives in our city. Housing is a big component of that. So I support the creation of more affordable housing. I also think we have to do a better job with our existing affordable housing stock to make sure the people who live there live dignified lives. And some of those affordable housing, public housing buildings, there are really some tough circumstances that we have to address. My family grew up, my father and grandmother were one of the first families that moved into Newtown Court. And those projects gave my family an opportunity to move into the working class, an immigrant family an opportunity to move into the middle class and working class. And I think it's important to continue the work that we did almost 100 years ago and build on that. We need more affordable housing. But it's not just about housing. We have to create paths of opportunities for our young folk. Cambridge spends $32,000 a year per student in our Cambridge public schools. But we're not doing a good enough job for creating opportunities for those kids who are not choosing to go to college. So workforce training, working with our labor unions, trying to create paths for those kids to get jobs that can allow them to stay in Cambridge. It's really expensive here. We've got to give those kids opportunities to stay here. That's another one. I think that when we talk about lower and middle income folks, we have to recognize that disproportionately this falls on, there are more Black and brown families than that. We have to do a better job of breaking down systemic barriers that are preventing all of us from enjoying the promise of our country and of our city. So I really want to do some work. I know Cambridge has often done great work, but we are still creating barriers for success for people. We have to contend with that. We have to work as allies and actively listen to those communities to make sure that we are giving them opportunities as well. Beyond that, I think that we have a wonderful arts community in Cambridge, but again, they're essential, not just creating housing opportunities for them and creating spaces for them to practice their art and perform their art is not just an act of altruism. It's something we have to do. We are creating a city that most of our lower middle income folks can't live here anymore. Some of those folks are workers. Some of them are working musicians. And so I think empowering our arts community is important as well. Beyond that, I think that we have to talk about our climate policies. There is an ever increasingly hostile climate. Cambridge has resources to really create a resilient city. But when we do that, we have to consider what that will mean as far as climate injustice goes. Mm-hmm. It often does come right down to housing.
Right. You said you were endorsed by what organizations have endorsed your candidacy?
So far, we've gotten endorsed by A Better Cambridge. A Better Cambridge is a housing advocacy group, particularly affordable housing. I've been endorsed by Our Revolution Cambridge. Our Revolution is the national organization started, by Bernie Sanders, and the local chapter endorsed me. And although we haven't received them yet, I've been in talks with some of the labor unions about endorsements. But those two are the two major ones. I can't think of any.
Right. And in terms of housing, do you support the affordable housing override?
I overlay. Yeah, I certainly do. Yeah. It's, in fact, there's been a vote going on tomorrow, coming up soon, there will be an amendment to that, and I support that amendment that will allow us to build higher along our corridors and in our squares, up to 12 to 15 stories. And I know that is a shocking number to some folks, but Cambridge is not defined by its skyline. Its skyline has been changing ever since we built our second barn. It's defined by the principles that we hold in common, those of inclusion, diversity, and equity. And without making bold housing decisions, we will not be able to uphold those values.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to community input, for example, whether it's the affordable housing overlay or amending some of the the bicycle safety ordinance or things like that, are you open to community input in that respect?
100%. Yeah, I'm a bartender. I've been at a bar for 30 years. When somebody asks you something, you can't hide from them. Access and accountability are really important to me. That's the practice that I've done for the last 32 years. It's what I want to bring to the council. And absolutely, we're a representative body, the city council. We should absolutely be talking with our neighbors. I plan to be in every neighborhood if I get on. With that said, the decisions we make have to be driven by creating a city holistically. And while I absolutely want to hear from our neighbors, I have to hear from all of them, and we have to make decisions that's best for all of us.
Right. So you would be flexible around those two particular issues: housing, transportation, etc.
Certainly.
Great.
Yep. Certainly. Always want to build consensus and collaborate with folks to come up with real solutions. Yeah.
Right. So Joe, tell us, give us a closing statement, and please tell us where people can find out more about you, how they might be able to volunteer on your campaign, make a large contribution if they would like. Would you be opposed to a large contribution?
As long as it falls within our guidelines of donations, yeah, absolutely. So you can, if you're interested in learning more about the campaign, we can go to joemcguirkforcambridge.com. There on our website is a pretty robust website. You can sign up. If you haven't registered to vote, we have a voter guide. You can make a plan to vote. You can donate your time or money to us there. I know that we talk a lot that I'm lower and middle income. That's my number one issue. But what I really want to see is civility back in our discourse. I think we have to have a lot more respect for each other when we're talking. So if you're looking for somebody who will be passionate but respectful, I hope you'll consider giving me your number one vote.
Well, thank you, Joe. And as a bartender, the customer's always right. So
that's correct.
So it comes down to respect. Well,
yep.
So thank you so much for joining us, Joe, today. And good luck on the campaign. And we really appreciate your time.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Be well for me.